Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another open chat. I am your host, Tiffany Daniels. And, well, hi, everyone. As you can see, I got tired of Vader voice. Vader voice was annoying, especially going in and out every stream. So, it's set. You may see me annoyingly move my ear because this piece of hair always likes to be weird. So, there's that. Hello, Cement Shoes. Good to see ya. Thank you for coming on a moment's notice. Now, the reason why you all kind of had no prep for this is, and why there was no shows for like 3 solid weeks, is because I was getting prepared for schedule change again. Because my work now has this thing where they want you to switch bosses and teams every 6 months. On the surface of it, it's supposed to be a coaching thing, so you can learn something new every 6 months for each boss to improve. What they didn't, I think, take into account is some of us are autistic. It takes us a good 6 months just to get used to a new boss, let alone, actually become, well, basically get to a comfortable place where we're ready to learn from this person, right? Just dead ass saying. This is not going to be fun. Being an autistic call center jockey sucks, folks. I'm just saying. I'm just putting it out there. Especially since now we're getting into October and we're basically going to have the type of calls come in that is going to make it actually like Black Friday every single day until about mid-January. So, yeah, that. We've had all kinds of things since we've last streamed, haven't we? Just all kinds of craziness pop up out of nowhere. We got people going to war, we got people bombing places to hell. We have a group of individuals, some of the coldest hearted individuals I've come across, justifying the deaths of children. Children with, we'll blame the terrorists. Seriously? Seriously, this is where we are now. This is where we are. But it's us autistics that don't have any empathy. Okay, then. Right. Sure, Jan. Sure. Hey, I worked in call centers 18 years because I have arthritis. Nope. I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you. Here I am, college educated. I got a degree in graphic design. I have never, to this date, worked a single day inside my field. Not one day. Not even half of a day. Okay? Like, not even close. At all. Ever. And then I got thrown into something that wasn't my field that I had weird talents for. So, there's that, apparently. So anyways, I did want to kind of wait a little bit until we got a few more people in before I showed you the news. But just know that here in a few minutes, you're going to get a crash course in hard understanding as to why the neurodivergent community has never trusted the media, and the fact that it has to do with something that happened way before JD versus AH. Okay? That's just further justification for our distrust of the media. But what do they say? We've been new. Well, we've been new in this community in regards to the mainstream media and how they treat us, all right? We've been new, as they say. It's a thing. I swear to God, it's a thing. There is PTSD for call center jockeys, all right? We come out traumatized every day we get up off of the phones. And we get weird prejudices too. When we've dealt with too many calls in a day, we get good at being able to like pinpoint when an individual is going full Karen, for example. We know from get go when they say their name if it's going to be given full Karen or not. It's crazy. It's crazy, and I want to retire. Ugh, pipe dream, I know, but yeah, there's that. Okay, so I do want to address what's going on with Twitter right now and the divide in the JD versus AH community by saying one thing. This is why I hesitated becoming involved with said community. On social media, I'm used to being part of neurodivergent side of social media. That is a side of social media that celebrates our areas of hyper focus, allows us to nerd out to our heart's content about whatever we want to nerd out about, talk about cats, talk about advocacy, boycotts, you name it. But one thing that is missing is constant infighting and drama. Okay? All I will say on the matter, regards of what's going on, Jax, all of it is I'm Switzerland. Okay? I'm not getting involved. I've got way too much on my plate. I've got way too much involving places like JRC, Agape, and the fact that my state is eroding neurodivergent rights in alphabetical order to get involved in whatever this spat is about. Okay? And I can feel myself because you'll notice that I'm not commenting as much anymore because everything's been reduced down to nothing but drama. Nothing but drama. Okay? So I have been retreating back more onto the neurodivergent side of social media because of it. It's almost fighting for the sake of fighting. You ever see that? Both sides will never acknowledge it, but those who are on the outside looking in, that's what it looks like. There are other things going on in this world right now. We do not need to be manufacturing things, nor do we need to be jumping down the throats of individuals who are simply revealing the information that they have at hand either. Sorry, folks, but I'm just done. And that's the reason why I continue on Twitter to not comment on, and why my focus has been more on the community I actually joined the website for in the first place. Because I'm not here for it. I'm not here for drama. I'm not here for fights. I've got enough fights that go on in my day to day life that I deal with. Social media is supposed to be an escape and also an avenue to vent and find like minded individuals. Okay, not create more of what I'm already dealing in my day to day life that I go to social media to escape from in the first place. That's just self defeating. And that's all I'm going to say on what's cropped up out of there because, yeah. Speaking of said community, because of all the infighting, a little something has slipped everybody's minds except for the few of us who keep retreating it. And that is the work that has been done, again, by my community, as well as others who've been diligent about it and not feeding into the drama. In the fire, folks, I am happy to report, is in the dumpster, folks. In the dumpster. I haven't seen a movie be rated so low this side of the Sia debacle. That Insanity got better ratings than In the Fire is getting. Okay? And it's not from the whole JD versus AH community. These are individuals who go and see the film and feel like they should sue for the hours of their life back that they spent watching this insanity. Many have chosen to boycott it, majority, neurodivergent community especially. But it looks like it's going to be a situation where it goes between just straight to streaming and old media, which I'm happy to see. I didn't expect it to do well to the point to where we would have had to actually engage in some of our larger activities like we had to do with the music movie, but I was prepared for it just in case. So, In the Fire, Cement Shoes. In the Fire is in the dumpster fire. The critics have not been kind. The few neurotypicals who could be convinced by the AH stands to go see the movie want to sue for their money back in the hours of their life spent. The reviews have been that basically her acting skills were the same as when she was on the stand, which amuses and does not surprise me. It's like she went to the Will Shatner School of Overacting, but without having even a smidgen of Will Shatner's talent. And I'm not a fan of old Bill. Most of the neurodivergent community's got an axe to grind against the guy, but in spite of our own prejudices, you could still say, in spite of the overacting we've all made fun of over the years, the man's still talented and she's not. At all. At all. Oh my God. You have critics from CNN telling them that In the Fire is where it belongs. I kid you not. It's been hilarious. It would be, I don't know if you all are familiar because Walmart's more prevalent out here in the Midwest than it is kind of really anywhere else, but it would be in those, I don't know if you see those bins, they kind of sit like in the middle, like as you're going towards the electronics section, but it would be going in one of those bins. It would definitely be going in one of those bins, yes. You're fine, Cement Shoes. I've had a lot of typos this week. So that's been entertaining. And it's been entertaining watching her fangirls try to defend it. But it's an indie film. Allow me, as a Gen X, to raise you the Blair Witch Project. A film with an itty bitty tiny minuscule budget that went on after it was released to make millions, mostly because of the absolutely brilliant marketing strategy that was used in order to promote that particular film. But the point remains that you can have an indie film with an itty bitty budget and even limited theaters and still have it be a success. And Blair Witch Project is like exhibit A. Okay? Exhibit A. So, Sean, it's being simultaneously released in theaters as well as being available on streaming, has what I've been hearing. So that's the news on that. And the fact that his little indie film is completely destroying In the Fire's numbers, which shouldn't really surprise anyone. better actors, better script. I could go on. I could go on. But yeah, that, right? That. All right. Now that I've got more of you, my regulars here, it's time to go on to the big news. You guys are about to get a crash course as to why most neurodivergents, silently or not so silently, were on JD's side, starting from when those audios came out, and why we don't trust mainstream media. A little something came out this week in regards to the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center, and it was dug up, well, by us, per usual, right? But let me show you what we found. I'm going to go ahead and share screen. And as I tell my boss, please, I'm sorry if you experience any form of vertigo. Okay, so hold on. You're probably going to be seeing this. Okay, we want entire screen. Share. All right, now we're going to go ahead and go in it here in a second once I get this pulled up here. There we are. All right. Sorry about the vertigo again. So here's that little something I want you to see here. This is from Demanding Justice, one of the many organizations that is standing up against the JRC. They did some very interesting sleuthing this week. If you can't read it, it states Boston Magazine takes money to write positive articles about the Judge Rotenberg Center. And they, of course, put, I believe money is the root of all evil. I would say errant love of money is the root of all evil, but may show my religious roots there. So this is the headline that the JRC paid for. Let's see if it will actually pull up here. This is the headline about the JRC. See, presented by Judge Rotenberg Educational Center. Because, yeah, I'm going to take your word that your place is a school of hope. Right. If you look where it has circled in red, it says this is a paid partnership between the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center and Boston's Magazine City/Studio. Interesting, right? All right, hold on. We'll get this fixed up here. All right, so what are we seeing here? Well, we've seen it in the media going against JD, haven't we? Money changing hands to do puff pieces and attack pieces. Boston Magazine is just simply honest about it. But we have enough anecdotal evidence to be able to argue that the New Yorker and the New York Times have also accepted funds to do puff pieces as well. We've always believed it. It's just this is one of the first times we were able to pinpoint it and call it out. So if you think you can trust the mainstream media, even with the news and the war going on right now, allow this to be Exhibit A and dissuade you. Okay? Because the truth is, these publications and news outlets will report, publish, and put forward what they're paid to. Badly, too. Especially printed media. just the typos alone and the fact that this goes past an editor's desk and people hit send will never cease to annoy me, let alone the bad grammar and the run on sentences. So, this is why we can't trust the media, folks, and why none of us have ever trusted for the mainstream media to ever actually do a decent report on our side of the equation ever. All right. Now, in the comments, since we're kind of alone today, is anybody at all surprised that the JRC is paying for puff pieces? Raise a hand to anybody who's shocked in any way, shape, or form. Anybody surprised that these reporters would brush aside the fact that the money they're getting paid is literal blood money that was gained by the JRC by torturing us and calling it medicine in order to put these puff pieces in the news? Anybody surprised at all that the level of complete lack of empathy and care for people like me being tortured by these places is there to the point that they are willing to take money and glorify well-known torture centers to line their coffers with? Anybody surprised? I'll give you guys a moment. See what you all think on this. Because I'm not surprised. I've been seeing it for a long time. This is just some pretty concrete evidence of it. I mean, what do you all think on this? While you're doing that, I highly doubt there's anything positive to say about the JRC, right? Because there isn't. Everything they do there that they say is based on science is completely batshit insane. They are a terrible organization. I'm just, yeah, right? Right? Forgive us for the horrific pun, but unfortunately on this channel, we are susceptible to dark humor here. We have to be. It's how we survive. Like, it's not surprising, right? This is why many of us didn't believe when the mainstream media, especially the harder they tried to push on us, the harder they tried to push that JD was apparently the freaking Hulk in hiding. The more they tried to push it, the more we disbelieved them. This would be why, folks. Because we already knew that these folks are willing to accept blood money from places like the JRC in order to puff up their image. In fact, these individuals are so callous, uncaring, unfeeling human beings that they don't care that the place that they are singing the praises of tortures kids. Don't care because it's lining their money, it's lining their wallet, it's not their kids. But especially if you're out here in the southwest region of the Midwest, all those rules and regulations for public schools that corporal punishment was no longer being allowed, yeah, about that. It's coming back. On a county to county basis, we've now got about 3 out in my region that is bringing back corporal punishment into public schools, including high schools. See, this is what happens when you ignore what happens to your most vulnerable and don't say anything. Eventually, it's going to come back to you. Everyone should be. This is what drives me insane. Nobody says anything. Not even the big media outlets that actually went out and did exposés on the JRC back in 2012. Like Anderson Cooper was one of the big shows out of 2012 going against the JRC. So where is he at? And before you all go and tell me he's in Israel, I know he is. I'm talking about in general because this has been going on since 2012. It didn't go away. But nobody has followed the story since then. And these puff pieces getting put out in the New Yorker and the New York Times and Boston Magazine. This is why the whole reporters as advocates thing has always made me laugh. Because they advocate for whatever they are paid to advocate for. Bottom line. There's no real investigative journalism that really goes on anymore unless you are talking about indie type news outlets or YouTube. Because it's a paid for business now. So why am I going to go and read something on the news or watch something on the news that I know somebody has bought and paid for? This is why when the JDAH thing first dropped, I sat there, I did not listen to the news, and I waited for more information to drop. Because I already knew. I already knew before I was even fully informed on the situation that the media was not going to be telling me the truth. You know? And that is just point blank example why none of us in the neurodiversity movement has ever fully trusted the mainstream media. Because, you know, we know they don't care. Unless they're paid to care. And quite frankly, none of us are even so much as millionaires, let alone billionaires. You know, that's why most of us have YouTube channels, as opposed to trying to go out into the news where we know we'll be misquoted and have people cast doubt on anything we have to say by the tried and true, well, they're autistic, so they just don't understand. Tell you, folks. If I had a dime every time that's been told to me, you all would know. Because you probably never see my ass again unless it was out at Boston getting arrested, being dragged away from the doors of the JRC about once a year. Just saying. Just saying is all. So anyways, we had that going on. And we had the world decide collectively that they want to push us as close to the brink of World War III as humanly possible. God, this is going to sound so egotistical, but sometimes I really do hate being right. And I sort of called it all the way back when the mess between Russia and Ukraine started. It is the very dark nihilist opinion that human beings are almost programmed to try and destroy one another. And yeah, we're a self-destructive race. That's why I fully believe, regardless of what steps lead to it, eventually there will be another world war. But these people lately, they just want to keep pushing us to the brink, don't they? Current modern media cares more about their wallets, more about clicks, more about getting money for their advertisers than they do about you and me. They don't really care what the truth is anymore. They haven't for a very long time. There's always been some level of media bias going all the way back to the Revolution era. Okay? If you don't think both sides weren't slinging mud on each other via the printed press, then I suggest you go open a history book about what was going on in America during the 1700s and throughout the entirety of the Revolutionary War. And afterwards, when our government was first getting established, it's always been a part of our media, going back from the very beginning. Yes. But the level that it has gotten to now, there is no true investigative journalism that actually goes on anymore. Not really. Everybody wants to grab the most sensational headline, whether it's true or not, because they know it's going to make money for their advertisers. They don't care that there's disabled kids that get tortured year after year after year within the troubled teen industry and schools like JRC. They don't care. In fact, they will write a glowing puff piece about places like this if the dollar amount is right. Or if they have any kind of empathy whatsoever, they'll take that hush money to look away. You know, that's on the best side of things. Anyone wants to know why I'm a nihilist? It really is. It really is. And if you don't understand this, especially these young kids, you look at all these girls just believing AH hook, line, and sinker, and even the few who don't, who say, well, maybe she did hit him, but protect her anyway. You can thank our media for that crap. Because, yeah, it is. You can't believe the media anymore. You can't. You know? You can't. Because every piece they put out is paid for. Even on a world scale, any conflict you've seen modern wise, and this goes back all the way to about around mid 90s. It wasn't news, it's propaganda being slung by both sides, with the truth somewhere in the middle and nobody caring about it except, people like me. So we go digging for the news. We have to because we don't have anybody willing to do true digging for us anymore. It's all it is, cement shoes. It's all it is. It's puffed up entertainment. Okay? I am old enough that I remember a time that we could be able to watch the news without somebody having someone comment on it. Do you remember that? I know it seems like years ago, but there used to be a time where you could just simply watch the news and there wasn't a panel surrounding the main host to cast their unasked for opinions on said matter. It was just straight news. Granted, it was already an endangered species at the time, but anybody remember those days? I remember those days. Sadly, mourningly, I remember those days. But news isn't the news anymore, and it hasn't been for decades. News has become a form of entertainment instead of being a way to pass information about events going on in parts of the world that you are not in. It's nothing but opinion and paid puff pieces. Okay? I think Cement Shoes gets me. I know you do to a point, Sean B. I know for a lot of folks who haven't been in the trenches as some of us are. Some of us are kind of old war horses at this point. We're tired. But the JD versus AH thing opened a lot of eyes into what the media has become. But some of us, as I say, we've been new. Yeah. So you've got places like the JRC paying for puff pieces. You wonder how places like Autism Speaks continue to perpetuate and bring in billions of dollars that the government can't even tax year after year. Right there. Paid to pieces. Pieces that praise Autism Speaks. And then those fantastic home videos that, by the way, people like me do not get to consent to, of young kids at their most vulnerable in the middle of meltdown. And then, of course, they always show at the end the happy little picture of the little boy walking calmly home from school. This is promoted on an international platform all over the world. Home videos of kids in their most vulnerable moments that they did not consent to be taken, nor do they consent to have it be used as propaganda so places, crooks like Autism Speaks, can profit off of it. Then try to tell me, people like AH Stance try to tell me the media is not corrupt and complicit. Because you're talking to the wrong person here, Karen. You're talking to the wrong person to try to tell me that. All right. I've rambled on quite enough. We're getting towards the hour point, so I'm going to shut up a minute. I don't know. What do you all think? And you can sound off about the current war going on too. I've already done so on videos. I put a trigger warning on because I know my opinion is not very popular. Just, the general questions I have of like literally everything, which is why the elephant in the room questions continue to not be asked. What do you all think? Okay, while you're kind of thinking on that, Sean B. There was a time, Sean B., where I would have agreed with you. There was a time where, although still nihilist, I wasn't quite as nihilist as I am, or jaded as I am now, where I might have agreed with you on the fact that some of these people are just uneducated. Unfortunately, as time has gone on, that has really just turned out to not really be the case. The real truth is, if it lines their coffers, they don't care. They don't care about human suffering. They don't care about autistic burnout that has led a lot of my autistic generation, in particular, to suicide. They don't care about the fact that things continue to go on like they did in that 2012, when that video was released in 2012 at places like the JRC. You've got mainstream people. Paris Hilton, for God's sake. Paris Hilton is out there with us, fighting the JRC, fighting Agape. This girl who used to literally just walk out her door and was able to draw media, but all of a sudden now that she's helping us fight places like this, even for her, it's like pulling teeth to get attention to it. Says a lot, doesn't it? Says a whole lot. Cement shoes. Okay, I'm gonna be the person here. I don't give old people flack because I'm getting old. And I don't want people giving me flack when I hit his age. But at the same time, are people on crack? What in the name of God makes people think it is a safe, good idea to send the leader of our country in the middle of a war zone? Like, what the fuck? What the actual fuck? I'm sorry. I'm going to ask it. I'm going to be that person. Because sending the leader of our country into Israel right now, as though Hamas is going to not do something because leader of a country. Are you kidding? They're salivating at the bit. Okay? Like, okay, let me give you an example of what that would have been like. For those of us who were not fans of Bush, that would be about along the lines of sending W to Iraq at the very beginning of the invasion of Iraq. Yeah, that. What are these people thinking? Are they thinking? The worst thing you could do right now, because we're still at the beginning of this conflict, folks. I'm sorry to bust the bubble that this will all end soon, but it won't. But yeah, few news channels on TV. I just don't. I watch my local news. I know the newscasters who are from my area. And they literally do just report on local news. I can trust what they say is true because I live here and I can actually verify it. Just saying. Local news is kind of my way to go. You know what, Seaman Shoes? especially early 2000s era, I did not think much of Paris Hilton at all. At all. My opinion was not kind to her, shall we say, especially when she was being put forward as the ideal female and I was the exact polar opposite. I didn't think much of her, honestly, because of how the media portrayed her. But the way the media portrays her, believe it or not, is a lie. They kind of did to her the same thing they did to Britney Spears, just not quite to the same extent. If you actually listen to her talk, and I'm not talking about the little media cut pieces that make her sound like a dumb blonde. I'm talking about if you listen to her podcast for 5 minutes. If you watch the clips of her when she's talking with congressmen and senators, she knows her stuff. She's actually a very intelligent woman. And she used the way the media was portraying her in order to build a multi-million-dollar brand. You don't do that if you're a dumb blonde. She used it and utilized it to create herself her own little empire. She's actually a lot more savvy than the media will probably ever give her credit for. It's kind of actually jarring and shocking for me because I did buy for the long time that what they showed Paris Hilton to be. You know, the that's hot, privileged, blonde, white debutante. Who, I'll be honest, during the time period I felt was dumber than a box of rocks. But she's actually not. She's extremely intelligent. She built on the image that the media pigeonholed her in and turned it into a business. I got to give her props. I do actually got to give her props because she's very, very different from what mainstream media has portrayed her being. It kind of hurts on the inside to admit that, folks, by the way, because I was one of the loudest dissenters back at the height of her popularity. Okay? And don't get me started about how hateful I was towards any of those teeny bopper bands and girl solo acts because, yeah, I was not kind. Just saying. Yeah, I get you. I just think she's a lot smarter than any of us have ever given her credit for. And a part of the major reason why that is because the media has entirely crafted our perception of her. And as far as her music, I don't know because I don't listen. I'm not a fan of Britney Spears music either. Matter of fact, full disclosure, when I was in elementary school and then coming into middle school, when those bands started getting big, one of the favorite forms of bullying me was to chase me around singing that horrific music. Okay? I didn't hate Britney Spears as a person, but I hated her music with every single fiber of my being. Okay? Like, my whole soul was in that. I hated the boys bands. I hated Backstreet Boys. I hated NSYNC. I hated all of it. And I was a loud hater. Loud hater. Okay? But yeah. Anyways, I'm babbling. I still hate that stuff. And don't even get me started on that Celine Dion song, My Heart Will Go On, because I hear the first freaking note of that song and my whole body twitches in annoyance. I can't do it. Thinking about it makes me want to yak. Stepbrother was in the ICP. My brother Mike was into Marilyn Manson. Metallica, Megadeth, Pantera, Slayer, Anthrax. I was deep into and still am deep into thrash metal. That was, is, probably will be to the day I come down with Alzheimer's. My music. I know it's old school. I know it's probably aging me, but I don't care. I'm pushing 40. Yes. Sepultura. Yes. Exactly. Ministry, Slayer. Yes. My thrash metal. In fact, I listened to said thrash metal at low levels on my Pandora station, along with some of my old rock favorites that come more from my childhood, like Zeppelin, Yardbirds, Skinnerd, Neil Young, all of that, when I'm on the phones to help keep my psycho ass stay calm. Because boy, okay, you all will know when I hit the lottery because I'm going to take one more phone call. I'm going to wait for that Karen. And I am going to go off, and I may record it for posterity. Y'all will know. Exactly. Her whole that's hot persona doesn't help her look or seem very smart, even if she is. You got to remember, though, who was pushing that image? Was it her or was it the media machine? Because they carefully craft, as we have seen, what it is the public sees and what we perceive. It didn't profit them to show her as an intelligent businesswoman. You know, none of us got to really see that until later. All of this, dude, all of this. This is why I had so many not basically I had like one female friend in the entirety of high school for this reason. I couldn't deal with the boy bands. I did not care about rumors. And to this very day, I do not give a shit who is fucking who. Don't care who you're dating. I never cared. So, most of my friends in high school were also the rejects like myself, the misfits, the neurodivergents, the metalheads, and even a few stoners thrown in there for good measure. In fact, there was a good chunk of us that were stoners. I was not in high school, but I didn't judge, which is part of the reasons they would befriend me and were some of my loudest defenders in high school. Imagine that, right? But yeah, I loved my thrash metal. I still love my thrash metal. That is my bread and butter. Weirdly enough, in spite of what media tries to tell you that it inspires violence, it actually acted for me as more as gave me catharsis. Made me feel like I wasn't alone in all this pent up anger. Speaking of, we're getting towards the end of the hour here, and I know we've gone through a few things, but Speaking of catharsis and all that, and I lost my thought. Sorry. There it went. The way of the dodo. But yeah, these were the things that I loved as a kid. And I was tormented by other kids, with them belting terribly the most popular at the time boy band, girl band, and girl songs that I hated with my whole soul and quite frankly still do. I don't want to discuss it because I was and still am a flute player, like obsessive level. Like I spent hours practicing every single day level flute player. I wanted to get a scholarship to Juilliard form obsessive flute player. And then comes my Titanic obsessed, Leo obsessed stepsister. You should learn the Titanic song. I'd rather be dead. Okay? I'd rather be dead. I'd rather have someone shoot me in the damn head than to learn a single flute piece, even the smallest note of that damn song. Okay? It's special. I can't do it. I cannot do it. I don't even want to think about it. It's God. Flute playing, a lot of people don't realize everything that goes into it. It's a lot of, you got to control your breath, but it's not just about breath and circular breathing. It's different ways that you have to tighten the inside of your mouth and your lips to play certain notes. It's a lot more complicated than it seems. Oh, I don't blame you. It does take a little bit of lung capacity. But yeah, I played competitively. And I mean literally competed. And I was obsessed. I was like the polar opposite of the overbearing parents forcing their kids to practice. My parents had to force me to stop practicing so I can go eat and interact with the family. Because they were either removing me from practicing in order to, be human, or they were removing my book from me so I can go and be human. Band nerd. Just no, I don't feel any shame in it. Band nerd. Band nerd and nerd. And I let that flag fly free. I let it fly true, and I don't give a fuck. But anyways, let's go ahead and close out, folks. We got a little bit over a minute left. Keep an eye out on this media, especially right now, considering the situation all of us are in. Because a lot of what you're going to see is war propaganda for both sides. And at the end of the day, if you really want to get to the heart of what's been going on for the last several centuries, you gotta read up. And you gotta ask the questions that the media never does. Like, from a psychological standpoint, what creates a radical? What are the events and things that happen in an individual's life that leads up to that level of hate and leaves them open and vulnerable to the manipulate into groups like this? because these things don't happen in a vacuum. There's going to be propaganda on both sides. We're going to see AI images that look real. Do your own research, because at the end of the day, we can't trust these people anymore. Oh, nice. Nice. Julio, not cool. If that doesn't take me back to elementary school, folks, when we were dancing the Coolio music at what they would call sock hops in middle school. All right, everyone. I appreciate you coming in to my very spontaneous out of left field live. It's been great having you guys on. I appreciate it. We are, well, the week after this, we're going to start having them late Monday nights as opposed to this early so that I can, have my days off to where I can have my weekends again. Thank you guys for coming in. I always appreciate it. As always, we here at Spilling Tea hope you have a good one. I will see you all next time. Bye bye, guys.